Hey everyone, Ann O'Connell with OC Publishing here, and welcome to the author journey. I know everybody knows who has watched regularly how much I love doing the author journey and how much I enjoy chatting with other authors and other publishers and industry experts. But my all-time favorite thing is when the show is celebrating a book launch. So you know what that means. It is party time. Woohoo! So we are leading up to launch day on Saturday for this absolutely gorgeous, astounding book, Where Did I Go? A Memoir Plus by Francene Gillis. And it's very, very relevant timing for this book to be launched. This June is Brain Injury Awareness Month. And this is the memoir of a woman, Francene Gillis, who lives in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, who had a terrible slip and fall on black ice in February of 2016. So think about that. How many years ago was that? And the challenges that she faced in the recovery process. So I'll tell you a little bit about Francene, and then I will bring her up. The plus part of this book, and she'll explain a little bit about it. It also includes a very comprehensive reference and resource section at the back, because that was some of the things, that was what she found the most difficult, finding information. And then also includes input from all of her healthcare providers, or a good number of them, and 7 stories of other people who have suffered similar invisible injuries. So this book is so chock-a-block. But Francene has a BED and an MED. She's an author, educator, and consultant who was born and raised in Cape Breton, where she taught high school students for more than 30 years. She writes weekly human interest columns and is a workshop facilitator and community advocate focusing on overcoming adversity, concussion awareness, mental wellness, and trauma. I could go on and on talking about Francene because she is one special lady, and we met a few years back when she first came to the Paradise Writers Retreat. But I'm going to let her tell you her story and bring her up to join us on the author journey today.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for having me today.
Hi, Francene. I want to raise a toast to you.
Ooh,
and I've got my party hat.
I have
my
lemon water.
It's sparkling, but it's just sparkly water for right now. So maybe shift to champagne on the weekend, on Saturday.
Okay.
When we actually are celebrating launch day.
I will chalk that up. You made me nervous, Anne, when you held the book up, because
Why?
I find that it's funny that the things that happen when you're writing such a vulnerable personal memoir. I printed off pages, and I can read from pages all the time because I'm looking at pages, but to look at the book, it brings it home. And I see that Where Did I Go? And it makes me relive kind of some of those things, and I get a little bit teary-eyed, and I didn't get emotional with anybody else, so I'm not going to get emotional with you. But if I do, we know I do.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? This is a safe space. Yeah. And the people who are watch because they're very, very supportive of their fellow authors. We have lots of indie authors who watch, and people who love to read. And I, for one, whatever emotion burbles up, like, we'll hold space for you. And because this is a very emotional book. So just start by saying, why did you write it? Why did you feel the need to write this book?
And just on the note of being emotional, my niece read it and she said she cried. And so I'm like, oh, it made sense. And then she said, but I laughed too. And I said, well, that's good, because I needed that. And I'm sorry, I'll tell the audience that sometimes my I'll get lost in my thought, and so I don't remember what you asked me.
Why did you write the book?
Why did I write this book? When I fell on black ice, I was taken on a different path. It was so unexpected. It was the end of the semester, the beginning of a new semester. I'm clomping into school, and I have my coffee mug, and I have my bag, and I'm just excited because it's a new semester. And then my foot went out from under me, and 2 seconds later, I remember my head bouncing. That's all I remember. And then I remember somebody kind of hollering to me or something because I was on the ground, and so on and so forth. Long story short, I landed in the hospital for 10 days. Then I came home, and it was like I was on a boat. I was on a rough boat, rough seas, and I was going sideways, and I was dizzy, and I was nauseated, and nobody could really tell me what to do to get better, because all I wanted to do was get better and be in the classroom, because I was already off 10 days. Well, that's crazy. You don't off 10 days with concussion. Well, little did I know, things did not go as planned. And it took me 4 months before. I live in rural Cape Breton. So it took me, even the doctors and such were not sure of concussion people who could help me. And so it took me 4 months, and those 4 months were very dark, because I felt like I had lost my entire identity, because my job was my passion. And so when I didn't have my identity, I sent out a distress call to my sisters. They dug up the specialists. Long story short, I went for therapy I was going 3 times a week to different therapies for the first couple of years. And then it kind of petered out after that. But I didn't know that a concussion, a brain injury, mild traumatic brain injury, could have such ramifications. And I mean, the symptoms are in the book. A lot of people know the basic symptoms of concussion. But
what were you suffering? What were the worst symptoms?
Okay, one of the worst things for me was a stutter. And I don't know where that came from, because when I first heard myself talking, I was like on the outside looking in. Who is this talking like this? And then extreme fatigue, dizziness, just a sense of not knowing where you were in space. Things came at me. It was like, and my dizziness was such that it felt like I was being sucked down a tunnel really fast, and I couldn't stop myself. And I think that's reliving the drop when I bounced, as far as I can figure. And so then there was cognition issues and forgetfulness issues, and I had vestibular issues. I couldn't walk very well. I was very staggering.
So that's balance,
complete balance. And then I discovered that some of these things could be caused by your eyes, which I didn't know. And so I discovered, now Dr. Cudmore, David Cudmore in Antigonish, he was the concussion clinic doctor I found. Jennifer Helling was an occupational therapist. They were both excellent experts. And so Dr. Cudmore, the team approach is the best. I'll say that straight up. And what he would do is he would see, okay, my balance is off. I need a vestibular specialist. My vestibular specialist said, your eyes are off. You need a special eye doctor. And so I discovered I had something called a post-traumatic vision syndrome. Who knows? Who ever heard of that? And then I had a midline shift. What the heck was that? so basically, my brain could not discern exactly where it was in space.
Wow.
So when I was tested, I was leaning back to the left. And so when she tested my eyes, it was Dr. Mandelman at that point. Later on, it was Dr. Shepard, both excellent doctors in Halifax. And so she gave me the eye thing for your prescription. And then she took me down into this room. And this is the most profound therapy I ever picked up on. And she asked me to walk down the hall. And I kind of went like that. And so then she put what she called yoked prisms. And there's much more in the book about all of this, because about 80% of us with concussions have eye issues and we don't know. So she basically, I walked and I was, and then the second time I walked, I was straight as an arrow.
Isn't that crazy?
So the yoked prisms, she explained, are basically crutches for your eyes and your brain to help you discern where you are in space. So by wearing those, you eventually correct that midline shift, and then it's easier. And then like things coming at you kind of ease off, and so on and so forth. And so she talked about the two eye vision things. One's periphery, one's focusing. Can't remember quite the names now, but I explain them with diagrams in the book because I think that's very valuable. But who knew that there were so many things? Like I had some tonics treatment. Who knows what's that? And that's to work with photography and colors. And what it does is the brain, the eyes are the closest to the brain. So neuroplasticity, try that big word on.
Yeah, neuroplasticity.
That's the ability to retrain the brain.
Yeah.
So when you have a concussion or a head injury, you no longer can go from point A to point B in a straight line, as people who are unconcussed can. We have to find a wiggly way route through. And so therefore we take longer to process. We can't handle people talking too fast, too loud. I'm looking at you. There were probably 20 steps I have to go through. And my occupational therapist taught me these, because when I'm looking at you, I'm seeing what's behind you. I'm seeing your head nod. I'm seeing your glasses. I'm seeing your lovely smile. I'm seeing the little Buddha statue in the back. And then I can hear the music from my husband out on the deck. And so there's all these things you have to get through before you can get to the place you need to be.
Hard to focus.
Sorry.
I was going to say, you are so the perfect person to have written this book, because I think it's going to be very obvious as people hear you speak about your personal experience, you automatically shift into teaching mode.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Right? Which is awesome. And especially so let's shift a little bit to the experiential side of it and why it's so important. So you said it was difficult. It took 4 months to find your concussion expert.
Yes.
And thankfully he was the right person for you, who was able to put this incredible team together. But there were still some big challenges. There was the misinterpretation and the lack of knowledge from people who you were trying to explain what was going on, right? You fell and bumped your head, the bump's gone, just come back to work. So how did you navigate that?
You have to, I learned that you have to educate people, because a lot of us don't know about concussions. And so the teacher in me, it was like, okay, this is my opportunity to tell people about concussions, make them aware and educate them. Because even sometimes some of the health practitioners are not as well fine-tuned as they could be.
As well versed.
And so I'm not doing well, and I lost that again.
That's okay. The practitioners sometimes didn't understand what you were experiencing.
And one of the things you had mentioned is that I found the right doctor with Dr. Cudmore. He had said to me, and others had said to me, had you come prior, it was after 4 months I saw Dr. Cudmore, I missed the window of vulnerability, which is the time that if you see a concussion specialist, you're going to possibly recover faster. And so I had missed that opportune time. And so that's one of the things that's driving me to do this book, because I want people to know, what do you do if you sustain a head injury or someone you love sustains a head injury? And there's a section in the book with the 7 other stories. It's called In a Heartbeat, because it can happen that fast. And so you need to be aware, and you need to be prepared to help educate other people. And there's a lot to learn. I learned so much, and my learnings. I was suggested that I do a writing journal, and so that helped me a little bit with my feelings. But I felt totally worthless. I had lost my job. I was no good to anybody, because I couldn't clean the house. I couldn't cook. If I tried to cook, there were too many steps, but I didn't understand that until the occupational therapist helped me. But I would be crying before I'd be able to sit down and eat anything, and then I'd be too tired to eat. And so the fatigue to have a shower was that exhausting. That again, sometimes I would just sit on the floor in the bathroom and cry. And it was like, how am I going to get better? Because I wanted to be back in my classroom with my students. I missed my students. I
Yeah.
felt I was no good to anyone. My husband had become sort of a caregiver. He was making all the meals. He was doing all the stuff. And where did that leave me? Feeling like I was totally useless. And
Wow.
because of childhood trauma and past trauma in my life, one of my specialists said I was actually dealing with post concussion syndrome and also PTSD at the same time. And so they were just kind of like this. And so what would happen, and this is common with concussion or brain injured people, is that we get triggered. So for example, one of the people in the book, she gets triggered when she hears a loud noise because she was in a truck that crashed at 150 kilometers into, to stop. And so I get triggered when something reminds me of something in my past, and I don't know what it's going to be. It's just you get triggered. And what I mean by triggered is your emotions you can overreact, and then they get heightened because your brain doesn't necessarily know what's in the past and what's in the present. And so your emotions, so you can get high emotions, you can have meltdowns. And so it's a very turbulent emotional ride. And for me, because I always suffered with a sense of low self-esteem, that was just putting the gravy on the potatoes because and so I fought that for 6 and 7 years. The way I got through it was through quotations. That's the teacher in me. And then I was watching TLC or one of those programs on TV. And there was a lady, her name was Rachel Chapman. And her story is incredible. And I gave myself a kick in the behind after seeing her story. And I said, come off it, Francene. You got to fight this. You got to do something. And so that helped me. And then I realized, and I thought back to a book I had done in 1994 called 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐞𝐿 in November.
Rose in November.
And my purpose in life, which grew from a beach when I was 16 years old and my 9-year-old brother drowned in front of me. And my dad was working on him and there was nothing we could do. And I vowed to him at that time that I would do anything I could to help alleviate pain from other people. And so that's kind of been the mission that I've been on ever since. And the book, the 𝐸 in November, that was the theme in that book. And I know that when you started with me, we were doing a memoir of my experiences. And then I'm like, but Anne, I have this I might add, or I might add that. And so
so we just added the plus.
It became like a part textbook, a part narrative story, and then a collection of other stories. And then it became resources because I basically wanted in this one book everything a person would need if they had a head injury or a loved one had a head injury. And then because my soul says to me and my spirit says to me, but that's not the only pain people have. So then some of those other stories deal with some of the other most worst things we experience in life. The depression, and so did mine. And it was like, but even if you go through any trauma, this book can help you, I believe.
And I want to add that, the beauty, what I love about this and the beauty of it is it's not all dark and dreary. So you bring so much of yourself into this book. You weave in sort of the medical background, the advice from practitioners, and you bring in your sense of humor. So when you were talking about Dr. Cudmore, I found this is one of my favorite images in the whole book. So so you're in the middle of, talking about something serious, and then like this funny little cartoon will pop up. So talk a little bit about how those cartoons helped you and are so important for this book.
Yeah, because the therapist, every one of them, I asked them, hey, will you be in the book? And then I said, well, can I play around and make comics and cartoons of you? And I have another one here. And it's the very first time I ever went to a massage therapist. And I did not know you had to undress.
It's one of my favorites too. Yeah.
And so the visuals came from the fact that for my post-vision eye problems, they wanted me to try to coordinating my eyes better and moving my eyes.
Yeah.
Because they put that pen in front of you and you got to look at that pen and you're seeing like 3 and then they're moving all over the place.
Wow.
So the visuals helped me exercise my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started to become, you know what? I want infographics because at that time, while doing the book, I couldn't read a lot of text. So the infographics allow me to look at that and get what I needed in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, you know, this is, I know.
Again,
somebody told me I should take that one out and I started laughing because it's pretty funny. But it basically tells you in a visual what can happen.
It's you.
It's
exactly.
It's what happens.
In that
And
moment,
so because I know that the topic can be dark, I wanted to lighten it. And so the quotations lighten it. The visuals lighten it, the cartoons to get a, because humor is important. And if you don't have a sense of humor, you need a sense of humor. Like when you get up in the morning, you've got to do the grateful things and you've got to look at what you do have. And you've got to, my mother, there's a quote, I don't know if it's in the book, but I used it maybe on another interview with Mary Janet, where I suffer from chronic pain. I've always had it since my early 20s. I have fibromyalgia on top. So that's a very painful condition. And so my mom told me, if you have pain, offer it up for someone who's in a worse condition than you are. Because there's always, right? It's like, that's life. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've learned to do. And the humor, try to find something funny, try to find something that makes you want to move on. Because you can get caught up in a dark place. We all get caught up in dark places. And if you have a low self-esteem, the critical voices inside your head, you need to learn how to silence them. You have me doing a launch on Sunday. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to run away. And then that's me talking. But then if I think of, oh, I might help somebody who was in the same position I was, then I can get out, I can get behind it, and I can promote it. And so that's what I've been doing on social media with my Facebook and my web page and with the book. And so we have to get the word out there.
And your website, yes. And I also wanted to tell everybody, you write poetry as well. So some of Francene's poetry is also in the book. And I just brought up here just to show you her website has tons of information. And the website address is francenegillis.ca. I want to make sure that we get that out there before we're at our time. And so make sure that you visit these websites when we talk about them. And then also, and I'm pretty sure that Francene on her website has all of the purchase information, but I want to also share with you the page on the OC Publishing website of Francene's book. Also has at the bottom here a few purchase links. So they will take you to the actual purchase page. And of course, there we have our lovely Canadian sticker on there. And this is 100% Canadian. The designer, the editor, moi, our proofreader, and the author are all Canadian, and just want to slip that in. So it's a beautiful book. And Francene, talk a little bit about in Cape Breton where people will be able to pick up. You can get a signed copy on June 22nd at the book launch at the Port Hood, St. Peter's Church Hall?
St. Peter's Parish Hall, 260 Main Street.
Okay, and then what are the stores that will be carrying?
Some of the gift shops that are carrying it. The Four Mermaids, beautiful gift shop here in Port Hood, and the Chesterton Museum in Port Hood. The Celtic Center, Music Center in Zurich is going to carry them. The Celtic Sisters in 𝐼𝐸 are going to carry them.
Excellent.
The Farmer's Daughter in 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐸 will carry them. Inverness,
shout out to all of our indie stores. Yay.
Freeman's Pharmacy is going to carry them, which is a lovely connection because people going in there often have a concussion. That's they go to a pharmacy. I can't remember anymore, Anne. And I don't have my list in front of me. But and they can also order it direct through me. But I would say just go to your gift shop, and if they don't have them, say give Francene
Please
a call.
order it in. Yes, give Francene a call. That's right. Give Francene a call.
That's more Cape Breton.
That's so Cape Breton. Yay. Yeah. And we're excited about the launch party on Sunday. So there'll be lots of fun going on there. Do you happen to have an excerpt that you might like to read to us?
I'm not sure. I do have some. I'll just read this short one. It says,
okay.
And before I do that, I want to say that through this, a slogan evolved. It's called "Help Me, Help Others." And so that's really important. And I am not with you, I don't think.
That's okay. No, I've soloed you. So we're focusing on you. Yep.
So help me, help others is kind of the slogan that's used. This sentence says, page 38, pause while we steal years of your existence. My inferiority complex explodes. Why? Is it my fault I fell? Should I feel shame because my symptoms last longer than typical? What is typical? I feel bad as if it were my fault, failure, an arch enemy. If I expect the best from others, I better step up. But no one was at fault. It was an accident. Did do, nasty, troublesome verb dilemma. Normally, I set towering expectations and work to achieve them. Feeling deflated, I search for answers, try to understand what happened. My house cries for attention. Let closets look like cyclones hit. Specialists, where are they? I know so little, no one to advise me. Terrified with each passing month, what if I do not recover? I cannot handle that ball and chain thought. Not an option.
That's in
the early stages. Yeah,
that was a great excerpt to read, and to also when people read the book, so that we purposely there were some sections that felt maybe a little repetitive, maybe a little, the thoughts were a bit, unconnected, but that was, we talked a lot about that, but I think for people to understand, to try and walk, not a mile, but a few steps in your shoes. I think that you accomplished that. And, it's a piece of work and I think you can be extremely proud of. I know that I'm very, very proud to have been a part of helping you help others.
But I have to say that this would not have happened without your help, Anne, because I could not see or sift out. And I mean, I'm a writer and an editor and a teacher, but at the same time, I could not get through the confusion at times. And Anne took all the visuals out at me at the beginning, and I almost threw everything at her and said, I can't do this.
Talking about a trigger, right?
Me on the right track. And so this is a compliment to OC Publishing as well, because it would not be here without both of us. And so we can celebrate on Sunday, and we are going to take the world by storm and help others know what I did not know, and hopefully save some people a whole lot of grief and pain and bad thoughts.
Yeah. And I want to shout out to our lead designer, David Edelstein, who designed. Now, the concept, the cover concept, is all Francene. The photo was taken by
my daughter.
Your daughter, but the beautiful layout and design done by David Edelstein, who does a good chunk of our books, and our proofreader, Sarah McFarland. So again, a project that, we bring a team together. One thing that we're very, proud of at OCP is everybody is passionate about the projects that they take on. So, and you are a very, very special woman, and somebody who has really stepped up, and you do not be fearful getting out there, and, but do take very, very good care of yourself. Like, just be gentle with yourself. That's my
I will.
advice.
Yeah, well, that's what happened when the concussion first happened. I was so driven in that first year or two that I actually worked against myself.
Yeah.
Because I was going too much and I was too tired and I wasn't giving my body a chance to build back up. When you reach below that 30% or you reach your threshold, that's the terminology they use.
Yeah.
That's when bad things happen because you're tired. Doesn't matter if you had a concussion. Anyone, when you only have 30% energy left, that's when you get a little grumpy and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
And that
that's
picture
right.
that you showed could have been
Yeah.
when I was under 30%.
Probably. And I just want to, before we close, you have had such amazing carers, health practitioners. And one of them, Dr. Toby Mendelman, there's a quote on the back of the book. And I think what's really important is that Francene has been, like, the feedback from her healthcare providers has been extremely positive. They want the book in their offices. They want their patients to have them. And Dr. Mandelman said, "You have done a remarkable job researching this topic. I was extremely impressed. A brain injury, even so-called mild concussion, can be devastating to sufferers. Untreated post-trauma vision syndrome, PTVS, can make life miserable. This book leads you through the symptoms of PTVS and how to find help. If you have a TBI, you owe it to yourself to read." And I would add that friends and family and caregivers of someone who has a brain injury owes it to themselves to read this book. So thank you so much.
It gives a lot of tips to help us others to deal with us if we get cranky. But thank you, and I really appreciate you having me on your author journey. I'd love to be on again sometime. Who knows, I might be.
Oh, I'm sure. I know that you got lots of books on the go, so we will have you back for sure. So thank you so much and congratulations. And I'm looking forward to celebrating with you this weekend. Yay.
All right. Can't wait to see you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you all for joining us on the author journey today, celebrating the upcoming launch of Where Did I Go by Francene Gillis. It's a memoir plus, and it's launching June 2025, June 22nd, 2025, and June is Brain Injury Awareness Month. So we'll see you next time on the author journey. In the meantime, bye for now and take good care of yourself. Thank you.